On a crisp October morning in 2024, parents were dropping children at St. Joseph's School in Longford. Among the routine bustle, a flatbed truck screeched to a halt, blocking traffic. 3 men leapt from the truck, weapons in hand, and charged a young father on the roadside, 28-year-old Patrick Stokes. A woman sprinted alongside them, phone raised as if recording, while shocked bystanders looked on. The men attacked Patrick. One wielded a shovel and another a makeshift blade known as a screener. In the scuffle, Patrick was stabbed in the abdomen. The attackers fled, leaving Stokes bleeding on the pavement as horrified parents shielded their children from the scene. An out-of-hours GP clinic was just around the corner. Patrick, gravely injured, managed to reach it for help before collapsing. Emergency responders arrived on the scene and airlifted Patrick to Dublin's Mater Hospital. He would undergo 2 emergency surgeries to save his life. Garda detectives launched a full-scale investigation. The shocking attack, just yards from a primary school, was immediately linked to an ongoing traveller feud that had plagued Longford for years.
Mossy Ward is your boss! He's your boss!
Locals say the bad blood in Longford goes back generations. Some point to minor disputes between grandfathers in the 1990s or early 2000s as the genesis. The modern eruption of the Longford feud is easier to pinpoint. Gardaí said that a major outbreak of feud violence in Longford first erupted in January 2019. In fact, 7 separate feuds involving members of 14 different traveller families flared up around that time in the Longford area. This wasn't one feud, but a cascade of interrelated disputes, some between distinct families, others internal. The authorities launched Operation Stola to clamp down and seized a small arsenal of weapons, sawn-off shotguns, machetes, hatchets, hockey sticks, and many more. On April 1st, 2019, an incident outside an Aldi left a man with life-threatening and disfiguring injuries. The victim was 31-year-old Daniel Lawrence, and the perpetrators turned out to be his girlfriend's own family, the Stokes. Daniel was dating Kate Stokes, which caused internal tensions with Kate's mother and siblings. On that day, Kate's mother, Margaret Stokes, confronted her daughter and Daniel in the Aldi car park, accusing Kate of calling her father names. Margaret slapped Kate. Daniel intervened to defend her, and suddenly, Kate's younger sister, Chantel Stokes, then 17, jumped in by spraying Daniel in the face with a can of deodorant. As Daniel staggered from the spray, Kevin Stokes Jr., Kate's brother, came sprinting across the car park with a knife. Kevin Jr. launched a frenzied knife attack on Daniel, stabbing him repeatedly in the head, stomach, back, and arm. The wounds were horrific. He required over 500 stitches and was lucky to survive. It was an exceptionally savage assault. This 2019 Aldi stabbing was technically a family affair, Stokes versus Stokes over Kate's romance, rather than a feud between clans. But it set a tone of impunity. That shocking violence could erupt anywhere, anytime in Longford. The case that followed also revealed how far some family members would go to protect their own. Kevin Jr. initially fled to Northern Ireland to evade arrest. Meanwhile, teenage Chantel Stokes, pressured by her parents, falsely confessed to the stabbing to shield her brother. Margaret Stokes backed up her underage daughter's false story. The judge later called this shameful, shocked that a parent would sacrifice a child's future. Eventually, the truth came out. In February 2022, Kevin Stokes Jr. was sentenced to 3 years and 4 months in prison, plus an extra 12 months from a previously suspended sentence. Chantel, being a minor at the time of the attack, got off with community service and a suspended term for her lesser role. This incident is important because it underscores the Stokes family's capacity for violence and their code of loyalty. It wasn't the Stokes versus an outside family here, it was the Stokes enforcing their own family honor. However, tensions with other traveller families were also brewing beneath the surface. For a while, there was a lull. By the end of 2020, 13 people had pleaded guilty to feud-related crimes, mostly violent disorder and weapons possession. By early 2021, Gardaí believed they had tamped down the worst of the violence. But it was a tenuous peace. Sure enough, late 2021 saw a new spark. The Christmas holidays that year brought travelers together for celebrations and rekindled an old grievance between the Stokes and Keenan families. Accounts vary on the exact trigger, but the consistent story, as heard in court, is the infamous photo refusal. At a holiday gathering, a member of the Keenan family refused to pose for a photograph with a member of the Stokes family. This seemingly small slight deeply offended the Stokes, who took it as a sign of disrespect. Insults were exchanged, tempers flared, and by New Year's Eve, the Stokes-Keenan alliance had collapsed.
I am breaking your windows tonight. I am scrapping your houses.
The first major battle of the renewed feud erupted on 24th January 2022 in Adnacasa, a housing estate on the edge of Longford town. By that afternoon, Gardaí were inundated with 23 calls in 20 minutes, reporting simmering hostilities between up to 30 members of the local travelling community. Neighbours heard shouting, screaming, and then gunshots. A group of armed men roamed the estate, some masked and carrying weapons, according to witness statements. At the heart of the fray were Jamie Dinnegan on one side and members of the Keenan family on the other. As tensions peaked on Palace Crescent, Jamie discharged 2 shotgun blasts, allegedly aiming at the Keenan group. In response, a white Ford Transit van came barreling down the road and rammed straight into Dinnegan. The van, driven by Michael Ward Jr., struck Jamie at an estimated 60 kilometers per hour. Eyewitnesses thought Dinnegan was dead, seeing him lying motionless in the street. When Garda arrived, they found a surreal scene. Jamie Dinnegan was stripped down to his vest and boxers, being tended to by his wife Teresa and others. Investigators suspect his outer clothes were removed to hide evidence like gunshot residue, and discarded clothing was recovered nearby. In a storm drain, Gardaí found 3 unused shotgun cartridges and 2 spent shells, plus a shotgun butt. Jamie, amazingly, suffered only minor injuries, bruises and scrape-like cuts on his leg. In the immediate aftermath, Gardaí arrested multiple suspects. Jamie Dinnegan himself, once out of hospital, was charged with firearms offences, possession of a shotgun and reckless discharge in public, and violent disorder. Michael Ward Jr. was charged for the van attack. Another younger participant, Noel Ward, unrelated to Michael, was also charged with a fray. The Keenan side, interestingly, largely refused to cooperate. Many statements given by members of the Keenan and Stokes families in the initial investigation were later withdrawn, a common issue in these feuds, where witnesses recant under pressure. In one early statement that was given, John Keenan Jr. recounted hearing Dinnegan shout, "You're dead. I am killing you. Ye are leaving this place," just seconds before the van ploughed into him. The legal fallout was significant, but not as severe as the violence warranted. By July 2024, when the case reached Longford Circuit Court, Jamie Dinnegan and Noel Ward both pleaded guilty to a fray. Michael Ward Jr. pleaded guilty to careless driving, causing serious harm, for hitting Dinnegan, and some traffic offences. More serious charges like attempted murder or firearms discharge were presumably dropped in exchange for these pleas, likely due to evidentiary challenges with reluctant witnesses. Jamie Dinnegan got 2 years, 2 months in prison, with 8 months suspended. Noel Ward, whom the judge viewed as less culpable, got 19 months, with 5 months suspended. March and April 2022 saw an explosion of street fights and confrontations as the feud raged openly. One incident occurred on the 16th of March 2022 at Longford's main shopping centre. In the car park outside Penny's, a mass brawl between women from rival families broke out. Video footage later surfaced on Facebook, showing two women wrestling on the ground.
There's two now. Now the two of us. Come on, up the nipple. Come on. Come out. Come out of the shopping centre. Come out of the shopping centre.
Can you go up for yourself?
Come on.
No, it's later.
You told me for the guards. Didn't Joe get Darren's house ready back in May? Twice. Didn't Joe do that? Didn't Joe do that? Didn't he do what he done, brother? Didn't he? Didn't he take the money, brother? Didn't he? Didn't he? Okay.
Can you shut up?
Good hand Joe. Payback Justin. Doesn't he owe Justin 18,500? Doesn't he?
Can you shut up?
Go pistol. Come on. Come on to me. It was up here.
Go to the car.
Because you're bringing the family, that's wrong. You're bringing the family. That's wrong. No, you come up. Come up, it's two. Come up, it's two here. There's two. There's two of us. Yeah, you'd wait till he got down. You wait for her. You come up. She said get into the car. She said get into the car. She said to get into the car. She said get into the car. Yeah, I go to Longford, Brenda. I go to Longford too. You get fair pay, woman, and I will go to Longford you tonight. I go to Longford you tonight. I asked George to get you. I asked George to get you, Johnny. I asked George for me and you to fight you today. I'll fight you. If you want to fight me, I'll fight you. If you want to fight me, go.
If Joe had sex with you.
Will they not? No, will they? God, stop. Stop.
By May, 4 women appeared in court: Margaret Ward, Winnie Ward, Bernadette Keenan, and Nicole Keenan. All 4 were charged with affray and threatening behaviour. The judge granted them bail, but with strict conditions. Notably, the Keenan women were ordered to have no contact with the Ward family or their partners. Just weeks later, at the end of March 2022, another bizarre confrontation was caught on video, this time outside a Topaz service station on Longford's Dublin Road. A short clip that circulated online showed an SUV and a car halted in traffic, blocking the road, as occupants roar insults at each other.
Mossy Ward is your boss! He's your boss!
Every window, remember?
Johnny, I'll always be your boss.
Tell Anne-Marie, get out! Tell Mossy Ward is Thomas's boss!
That's what I do for you.
Up and come out! Tell her come out to me! Tell her come out! Tell your prostitute to come out! Is she coming out? Is she coming out?
This confrontation ended without blows, a lot of posturing and yelling, but it demonstrated how bold and public the feud had become. Politicians voiced alarm.
Longford is a busy provincial town, but incidents of violent crime are becoming a real concern.
I have a taxi, and we was 2 weeks ago, was driving down in broad daylight. The rock went through the window, smashed the side window on the taxi at 8 o'clock in the evening.
That's terrible, you know, like, because 99.9% of the people in Longford, they're all good people, you know. I've lived here for 20 years.
I've walked up and down this town for the last 35, 40 years, and I've never had an ounce of trouble. Older people, they are afraid to come into town anymore, and it's a shame.
The community has now written to the Justice Minister and the Garda Commissioner, appealing for more Garda resources and tougher sentences.
We will not be defined by these people, and we will get Longford back to where it should be, and it can be dealt with if the judiciary and the guards play their part.
For business owners like Ruth McGarry Quinn, the reputational damage is already impacting.
We're at lunchtime here, and normally we would be hopping, and unfortunately we're not, and that is repeated all around. You know, people that are going shopping in other counties, and the only reason they're doing it is because they don't feel safe.
In 2019, Operation Stola was set up here in Longford town to crack down on criminal activity, and armed Garda patrols were used. Now business leaders want to see that approach taken again. Gardaí say it's a small group of people involved in this violence. A number of them are now before the courts.
By spring 2022, Feud members truly acted as if they ran the town, laying claim on social media and terrorizing anyone who got in their way. Days after that roadside shouting match, a pre-arranged bare-knuckle boxing fight took place on the 3rd of April 2022, likely as an attempt to settle scores the Traveller way. A video later emerged of two young men slugging it out in an empty car park on a Sunday morning, surrounded by about half a dozen onlookers. In the footage, one older man can be heard encouraging one of the fighters, cheering on his son before the bout. According to social media rumors, one of the fighters was only 18. The other fighter was reportedly twice his age.
Don't hit the phone. I never wanted to fight. I didn't, I swear to God, I didn't. You ran live videos last night.
Yeah,
why? How you doing in the morning?
Yeah, why? Because your brother Andy.
Feud violence peaked on the 5th of April 2022. A stabbing inside Luigi's fast food takeaway on Main Street in broad daylight. It was roughly 3 p.m. on a Tuesday. The town centre was busy with shoppers and school kids. Martin McDonough walked into Luigi's to order food. Not long after, Patrick Stokes pulled up outside in a car. Recognizing his target, Patrick Stokes entered Luigi's with one hand in his jacket pocket, gripping a concealed weapon. Right behind him came his wife, Jacinta Stokes, who held up her phone to record video, clearly anticipating a confrontation. There were about 10 to 15 people in the restaurant at that moment, including children. Patrick Stokes walked straight up to McDonough and lunged. He swung with what was later identified as a Stanley knife. McDonough immediately fled behind the counter, desperate to escape. Stokes vaulted over after him. In the tight confines of the takeaway counter, McDonough was trapped. The owner of Luigi's, Peter Vocella, bravely tried to intervene. Vocella suffered a deep cut on his thumb for his troubles, but likely saved McDonough's life. At one point, McDonough, fighting for survival, managed to grapple Stokes into a headlock. Patrick Stokes wriggled free, dropped the knife, and sprinted out of the shop, Jacinta close behind. They jumped into their vehicle and fled Longford town at speed. Martin McDonough collapsed from massive blood loss. When emergency services arrived, they found McDonough in critical condition. He'd already gone into shock. Doctors later testified that the quick actions of Vocella and others may have saved his victim's life. After stabilizing in Longford, Martin was sent to intensive care in a Dublin hospital. Gardaí launched a manhunt, but Patrick and Jacinta Stokes turned themselves in that evening, likely on advice of a solicitor. Patrick was charged with assault causing serious harm, among other offences, and Jacinta was charged as an accessory. The district court judge initially granted Patrick Stokes bail, a decision that drew criticism, but under very strict conditions. He had to stay out of Longford town entirely, obey a curfew, sign in at a Garda station 3 times weekly, and have no contact with witnesses. The guard had objected, warning the court that this was part of an ongoing violent feud, and witnesses feared intimidation. But Patrick's lawyer argued he had a job offer in Dublin and a child with autism that needed him, and that he denied the feud aspect, so bail was given. Over the next year, the case against Patrick Stokes proceeded. In January 2023, Patrick pleaded guilty in Longford Circuit Court to causing serious harm to Martin McDonough. In May 2023, he was sentenced. The judge was visibly angry, saying the victim's description of being butchered was appropriate. Patrick Stokes received 7.5 years in prison, with the final 12 months suspended, effectively 6.5 years to serve. That should have put Patrick away until at least 2028. Yet remarkably, Patrick Stokes was back on Longford streets by late 2024, or at least not securely locked up. It's unclear if he appealed or if he had a temporary release. This anomaly has caused considerable local confusion and anger. Through mid to late 2022 and into 2023, Longford remained under high alert. Garda patrols were visibly increased. Armed support unit vehicles became a common sight on the town streets whenever tensions were high, especially during traveller weddings, funerals, or events where rival factions might cross paths. There were also instances of intimidation and vandalism. Windows smashed at homes and cars of known Feud participants.
He's about 10 or 15 up there, which is Johnny Keenan's sons and son-in-laws. 10 or 15, you had them on phone here, and he was the guards coming out for you, and he was my wife there, and shit was in the house. I wasn't there. I come back there, 10 or 15 years, I don't know what this is him over. I have no idea at all. So basically, this is what you did, and he was in the top of the shitter. Right? This is a cowley act here. You're a big brave man. In the top, I have two little sick children there. Two little sick children I have there. God bless them, save them. The whole lot he came here. This we did the front door, 10 or 15. He did what you did now. The old front windows there as well for the front children. The house there, the children, right? Now, I wasn't in the house, boys. I wasn't in the house, and I know what this is over. But I tell you one thing, boys, now. He brought this out of houses with little children in it. I have two little children not well there. And you're a big hard, the whole lot of you then.
One old pissy old window, boys. I tell you one thing, you're bad men to do a job. So yeah, sure, if I was going to break something, boys, I'd make sure I break it fucking rightly. One out playing at last, You dirty old cowardly bastards, but I promise you this much. The one I get, and I swear on my child's life.
Gardaí recorded dozens of minor incidents that they believed were retaliations not always covered by press, as both sides engaged in a tit-for-tat campaign of fear. In May 2023, the shopping centre brawl case had its initial hearing, and that is still winding through the system. On the morning of October 10th, 2024, the streets around St. Joseph's School in Longford were just starting to fill. It was just after 9 a.m. Down the road, a flatbed truck suddenly came to a screeching halt. It pulled across the road in a way that blocked traffic. 3 figures leapt from the truck. 2 of the men were armed. One of them was holding what looked like a shovel. Just ahead, standing on the footpath outside the school, was Patrick Stokes. The men unleashed on him. Meanwhile, the woman with them, later identified as Winnie Keenan, was recording the entire thing on her phone, shouting in the background. Then, the 3 were gone. Despite the severity of his wounds, Patrick managed to get himself to the nearby GP clinic. Paramedics arrived, stabilized him on site, and then made the decision to airlift him directly to Dublin's Mater Hospital for emergency surgery. That same afternoon, doctors fought to keep Patrick alive. He had lost a large amount of blood and sustained a serious stab wound to the abdomen, plus blunt force trauma to his upper body. He was taken straight into the operating theatre, where he underwent 2 separate surgeries within 24 hours. Within hours, Gardaí carried out multiple coordinated raids in Longford town and the surrounding areas. During those raids, Gardaí recovered a number of items, including what they believed to be the actual weapons used in the attack. They also seized mobile phones, including one that may have been used to film the ambush. By the weekend, 3 suspects had been arrested and brought before Longford District Court. David Joyce, described as a key figure in the Longford feud and married into the Keenan family. Martin Keenan, believed to be the driver of the flatbed truck. John Keenan, Martin's younger brother, also suspected of carrying a weapon during the attack. Also arrested was Winnie Keenan, wife of David Joyce, who Gardaí believed had been filming the ambush and possibly directing the attackers. All 4 were charged with violent disorder and possession of offensive weapons, while additional charges of assault causing serious harm were expected to follow as Patrick's medical condition stabilized. Joyce had previous feud-related charges, including weapons possession, and his profile had risen in recent months as a key player on the Keenan side. He was remanded in custody to Clover Hill Prison, where his placement was later reviewed due to concerns for his safety. Martin Keenan was also denied bail. The court heard that he had access to vehicles and resources, and that he posed a significant flight risk. Gardaí testified that he had previously been under surveillance in connection with another feud-related weapons incident from 2022. A search of his residence had already turned up machetes, shovels, and a samurai sword. The judge described the risk of reoffending as real and substantial, and ordered him held in custody pending further hearings. John Keenan, meanwhile, remained silent in court. He had a history of minor public order offences, but had largely stayed out of the headlines until now. Gardaí believed he had been pulled deeper into the feud by his older brother Martin, and by marriage ties to the Joyces. He too was denied bail. Winnie Keenan, however, was granted bail under strict conditions. Her solicitor argued that she did not physically strike Patrick Stokes, and that her alleged role in filming the attack did not justify remand. The judge agreed, but warned her to have no contact with any other individuals connected to the case, and to remain out of Longford until trial. Her phone was seized as part of the investigation. Social media remained a double-edged sword. Some elders posted Facebook videos jointly calling for calm, only to be undermined by younger relatives live-streaming taunts hours later.
With the crooked finger, that he may be found dead before the night out. A big old fanny, that's all he is. A big old fanny. And that two fucks you or your sisters or anybody else can do about. Now kiss my you dirty red rotten 80 prostitute you.
In late 2024, after the stabbing of Patrick Stokes, several traveller elders from outside Longford intervened to broker peace talks between the Joyces, Keenans, and the Stokes wards. Unverified reports on social media in November 2024 suggested a settlement. Local Gardaí neither confirmed nor denied these rumours, but did say they were aware of ongoing dialogue. As of early 2025, the Longford feud remains an open wound, but the violence of 2022 to 2024 has eased, perhaps simply because so many key players are now imprisoned or injured. With Patrick Stokes recovering from being stabbed, David Joyce and Martin and John Keenan awaiting trial in custody for that stabbing, and Jamie Dinnegan and Noel Ward serving sentences for the 2022 affray, a lull has fallen over Longford. However, Gardaí are not naive. They stay on alert for reprisals. When David Joyce's trial comes up, or if any of the remanded men get bail or beat charges on technicalities, trouble could flare again.